Our campus must be dry. IU.
And welcome to this edition of Dry Campus. Alongside you today are your usual co-hosts, Ethan Dolman and Sai Balabatra Petruni. And today we will be talking about Indiana football. We will be recapping the victorious Saturday that we had against the 16th ranked, I should emphasize that, ranked Wisconsin team. 14-3 in a game that was very defensive heavy, may have been slightly boring to watch, but at the end of the day, when you have an Indiana team dominate or be more physical than one of the most physical teams in the nation on a consistent basis, that's a really good sign to where our program is going. So we'll recap that game, and then we'll also talk about everything that's been going on in the Big Ten, with the Purdue game being canceled, to the Big Ten having no spine with their rules, and with the college football playoff ranking as well, staying consistent with that. So like I said, we'll start with the Wisconsin game. Sai, what are your initial thoughts of that game, with Tuttle being the backup quarterback and just the way our defense played lights out, quite frankly?
Yeah, you kind of said it best with, just us being the more physical team. We just dominated defensively, and it's one of those games where it's a low scoring game, and both teams will have a few opportunities to score, and it's the team that makes more of those opportunities that's going to win. And our defense played lights out, and that's really admirable. But for me, what really stuck out was the play of Jack Tuttle. He really stepped up to the plate. He's not Michael Penix Jr. We didn't expect him to be Michael Penix Jr. But what really stuck out to me was he is a solid game manager, and that's really important. That can be really important. What I really saw was he made the right reads, didn't throw it into coverage, didn't take too many risks, that non-calculated risks. He ended up throwing a couple touchdown passes, only one turnover, and that was off the QB sneak. So it's not really like I can forgive that turnover. It wasn't like he fumbled the ball or made a bad throw. And on the flip side of things, Graham Mertz had 2 turnovers. He had a fumble and had an interception. So those really played a big role in it too. The other thing that I really saw that I think was really the difference in the game was just the difference in red zone. How we made the most of our red zone opportunities versus how they did. And we both had 2 opportunities in the red zone, and we came away with touchdowns while they came away with field goals. So that was huge, and we've always been a great red zone offense team. We haven't always been able to get the offense moving. We have a lot of 3 and outs, and punting was very active during this game. Also, a shout out to our punter Hayden Whitehead, who had a great game as well. But there's a lot of punts. You're not getting the ball moving a ton, but once we get into the red zone, we've shown pretty much throughout the season that we know what to do with the ball at that point, and we're really good at getting 7 instead of 3. On the flip side of things, our defense did a really good job of, limiting Wisconsin to 3 points instead of 7. So I think that was, just from a math perspective, that was the difference of the game.
And you hit the nail on the head when you said, those red zone opportunities that decided the game, because we were able to convert on ours. We were able to get touchdown passes while Wisconsin was having to settle for field goals. Tuttle surprised me, honestly. I did not think. Now, if you look at his stats, it's pretty underwhelming. 13 of 22, only 130 yards, but he did have the 2 touchdowns, and a lot of his throws were either spot on throws that were just, that were caught or barely deflected. There was never any threat of an interception with Tuttle. Sometimes with Penix, you throw it and it makes you a little bit uneasy because it goes through a defender's hands or whatever. With Tuttle, he just made nice, safe throws, and that's what this offense has to do. Tuttle knows that he's not Penix, and he doesn't have to be Penix because we have this defense. So I thought he was a great game manager, kind of like in a way, like I'm a Colts fan, kind of like a Phillip Rivers, where he's not going to completely win you the game, but he's a pretty good game manager, makes the right throws, usually on target. I also love anytime it's a pass to Freifogel, it's just a toss-up. It's just a 50-50 ball. Freifogel was able to get in one for 35 yards, but I believe there's also a pass interference, at least one, if not two, that Freifogel was able to get called for him. So it seems like 50% of the time it's a nice shot just to throw it up to Freifogel and see what happens. So that was great. The run game was all right. It kind of took a step back from the Maryland game, but it was definitely a step up from the Ohio State game. David Ellis getting some rushing yards in. That's a little surprising. He had 5 carries for 22 yards. So that was solid all around. What I was most surprised, I guess, most surprised about is that both of our lines, our offensive line did a great job of protecting Tuttle. For the most part, there were a few times Tuttle did get hit and rattled, but I think they did a good job at giving him the amount of time to throw. It wasn't always a clean pocket, but it was never like Tuttle was forced to make a bad throw because of the collapse in the pocket. So they essentially did what they had to do, I think. What I'm most surprised about is our defensive line. Our defensive line able to get the push against the Wisconsin O-line, which is always one of the best in the Big Ten, if not the best in the nation. Guys like Cam Jones and Jerome Johnson, Micah McFadden he had an amazing game, probably his best game of the year against Wisconsin. We were always able to put pressure on Mertz and to force Mertz into what, like you said, I think we had a strip sack fumble, and then he threw that interception. Interception was just kind of a bad throw, to be honest. But Jamar Johnson was there for the pick. Overall, just really proud that our D-line was able to get that push against Wisconsin, because that Wisconsin is known for their great O-line, kind of that great run game, and that was really non-existent during the game. But yeah, shout out to Micah McFadden. I think he's playing like one of the best linebackers in the nation right now. He's always a sure tackler. Had 2 sacks against Mertz. Just really proud of this defensive line. They've come a long way from that Penn State game. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, our defense was spectacular in this game. And they made a lot of big plays that were momentum changing plays. From the very beginning, from the get-go, Wisconsin's driving, and we're up 7-0, but Wisconsin's driving. They're moving the ball pretty well. It's still scoreless. When Wisconsin's driving the ball, it looks like they're getting momentum and they might score. They get down to like their R35 40-yard line, and then Tywan Mullen comes out of nowhere with a massive hit on Graham Mertz. Leading to a fumble where we recover that fumble and get that touchdown off that turnover. That was the first quarter, and that itself was a huge swing in the game because, early on our offense wasn't really moving, and it looked like, all right, Graham Mertz is the more experienced quarterback than Jack Tuttle here. He'll probably have an easier time moving the ball, and Wisconsin might score first. That's how it looked to me. Then our defense makes a huge play in the in third quarter. Obviously, the Graham Mertz threw an interception, and yeah, it was a bad throw, but there have been a lot of bad throw interceptions against us this season, and it kind of goes to show, yeah, it's a bad throw, but it also is a testament to the type of coverage we're showing. What are we showing versus what are we actually playing? Tricking the quarterback into thinking this is a good throw, or forcing a quarterback into making a difficult throw because there's no one else to throw the ball to. So that's a testament to how well our secondary is playing. Another big play. We're up 14-3 in the third quarter. They're in the red zone. Mertz throws it into the end zone on third down. One of our corners, I think it might have been Mullen, makes a huge play and hit to kind of knock that ball up and break it up and force them to kick the field goal. And then, yeah, it was Mullen. Yep. And then at the end, 14-6, they're driving down. We have to make one last stand, and that the defense comes up with one final last stand to win the game. With Micah McFadden with a huge sack on Graham Mertz in that sequence, followed up by that fourth down pass breakup by Reese Taylor that to me almost looked like it was going to be caught, and then Reese just stuck his hand in there at the last moment to break it up. And interesting story. Reese Taylor was actually getting recruited by Wisconsin. Wisconsin really wanted him, and he chose Indiana over Wisconsin. So to make that play against Wisconsin is really cool. So I really thought the defense played lights out this entire game. Really didn't let anything happen, and that was really the main difference. The offense didn't have to do much. Tuttle had a couple of really good throws. He had the second touchdown to Fillier was a great throw, and then obviously the Miles Marshall drop was tough. And if we had lost the game, that really would hurt after that play. But really an entire team effort, and it's just really got to be proud of this football team.
Yeah, I forgot about that Miles Marshall drop. That was, you got to hold that in. But luckily it didn't cost us. I think you made a good point when you said the way this defense, schemes itself to show one sort of coverage when it's really playing another. And that's obviously a credit to the players, but also to Coach Womack. I don't know how long he's going to be our defensive coordinator, because I could see him getting a head coaching job somewhere. He has been a fantastic defensive coordinator for us. He has a lot to work with, especially in the secondary, a lot of athletes, but the way he schemes his guys, it seems like, especially with our secondary, they're in the right place at the right time. A lot of the time, they're just there to make the interceptions. Sure, like you said, it was a bad throw by Mertz, but I think it was Jamar Johnson with the pick, he was in a perfect position. The ball just came right to him. He was kind of playing that coverage safety position, and it just came right to him. And that's also credit to Womack. I don't think we've given him enough credit for what he's done to this defense. I don't know how much, and because I know Coach Allen is a defensive-minded coach, I don't know how much he's involved in scheming. I'm sure he's involved a lot. But when you're the head coach, you're also worrying about, the time on the clock. You're worrying about other things as well, your next offensive possession. So credit to Womack. He's been a great defensive coordinator for us. And like you said, just a solid win. This is a win that, I mean, it's our best win of the year. If you look at the games we've won, I can't really think of a better win. At the time, Penn State felt like a massive win, and Michigan felt a little bit less so, but still a massive win. Now we've seen the way those programs have gone sort of downhill since we played them, but nonetheless, it's still a great win. Defense really showed up, and unfortunately, we don't get to follow it up against our rival Purdue, but that's the way things are right now with both us and Purdue, I believe, having COVID-related issues. I don't know the degree to which we're having it. All I know is we had to shut down practice yesterday.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, it's not really a necessary game to be played. If there's a game canceled, it's better. It's better now than next week clash against Iowa, who's a solid team with a winning record, which is important. Also a ranked team, or a bowl game. So it's better these COVID issues play themselves out now. But it is definitely unfortunate, not to play the rival in Purdue, especially with the season we've been having. It'd be nice to, kind of get a statement win against Purdue where we beat them by a couple possessions and, embarrass them. I'd love to embarrass Purdue. It'd really be fun. But, it's not so it's not the Purdue COVID issues that bum me out. It's definitely the Indiana COVID issues that bum me out, just because we were so good the entire season at staying healthy, and it was one of the arguments we would use against Ohio State, determining like, oh well, we've stayed healthy, we've followed all the rules, and we've missed just as many games as Ohio State in terms of how many games were our fault in terms of of missing those games. Ohio State has missed 2 games because of the other team, so now it gives us less of an argument, but we really don't have much of an argument anyways, because the decision has pretty much been made at this point that Ohio State will likely play in the Big Ten championship, and the Big Ten will change their rules. And what annoys me about this, Ethan, is all week I've been hearing possibilities of, oh, maybe the Big Ten will just flip around the schedule a little bit or move things around and add a game to Ohio State, which, would be annoying, but if they did that, I wouldn't be as mad. Like, they're still playing a game. They're playing another Big Ten opponent. If they'd played Maryland or something like that, that makes sense. But to flip the rules at the last second just to accommodate Ohio State, do you really think if the situations where the roles were reversed and we were the 5-0 team missing this next game due to COVID, and we beat a 6-1 Ohio State team, do you really think the Big Ten would put us in the Big Ten championship over Ohio State in that situation? It's hypocrisy. It's they're catering to Ohio State, and it's dumb. They're playing favorites, and that I do not like at all.
Yeah, and the whole point of the rule here was the situation that the Big Ten was eyeing back in September and October. They thought, okay, what if somebody like an Indiana or Maryland is like 4-0, right, and hasn't lost, or 5-0, and then we have our favorites, our Ohio States, our Wisconsins, that are 6-1, 7-1. They said they were probably thinking, well, we would want Ohio State, Wisconsin to go into the Big Ten championship because they would have played the amount of games, they would have probably followed the rules better, and ultimately they have more wins, no matter what the head-to-head was. The opposite happens, where we're 6-1. Ohio State, what are they, 5-0? 5-0, and it was so expected that they were going to flip the rules. It was so expected. Like, they weren't going to do it for, I can see it happening for Ohio State. I can kind of see it happening for Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has earned that right, but Ohio State, without a doubt, was going to get this accommodation for them. As soon as Coach Day said that we really need to reconsider, this whole rule change, and then I forgot what the Big Ten said, but I remember the word transparent was a part of their whole statement. We need to be transparent throughout the whole process. If you're going to be transparent throughout the whole process, then you don't change the rules. That's being transparent. That's being like, all right, we're being transparent. We're not going to go, against what we've said back in October. But of course they did it. Ultimately, it is what it is. Like, even if Ohio State weren't allowed to play and we would play in the Big Ten championship and win, we would be Big Ten champions, but there would be an asterisk next to it. Every other team in the Big Ten would not acknowledge us as Big Ten champions, I feel like, especially Ohio State and kind of the top dogs. At the end of the day, quite frankly, we may be playing a better opponent if we're able to play with an Iowa team instead of Northwestern. But it just sucks. And it's just typical Big Ten BS. It's typical, they're about the money, and look, this way they have a better chance of getting a team in a college football playoff. And in a way, you're like, okay, I can understand that, but also you're just going against what you said originally. That's what's upsetting. And when they say that they're trying to be transparent, when they're doing the complete opposite, that's what really bugs me the most.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head with, the why the rule was implemented in the first place. And look, we can go back and forth on all this and here and that, but at the end of the day, Ohio State is the best team in the Big Ten. and they should play in the Big Ten championship for, just based off of who the best team in the East is, and we are the second best team. So I get it from that perspective. It's just all these rule changes and everything like that. It's like the Big Ten is they just go back on everything they say to just cater to every Ohio State need, and that's upsetting. But we'll have a good opportunity to beat an Iowa team there. The thing that really upsets me though is it really just kills that slimmer of a chance we had of going to the college football playoffs. I mean, I know that's a long shot dream there, but if we played in the Big Ten championship and won the Big Ten championship, which I think we would, I think we'd win the Big Ten championship if we were in playing against Northwestern. I think we're the better team there. Also, you said one thing about an asterisk on the season and things like that if we win the Big Ten championship. I don't care.
Yeah, me neither. I do want to point that out. I don't care at all either. I was just pointing out that other people would care. That's all I was putting out. But no, I don't care at all.
I don't care if other people care. We go to Indiana. This football team has never been good. Like this, if we won the Big Ten championship, I don't care if there's an asterisk on it. I don't care what happens. I don't care if we play the most lousiest teams in history, but 50 years down the road, no one's going to remember that asterisk. 50 years down the road, people are going to say Indiana won the Big Ten championship in this year. That's all. Like, who cares? I don't care. But it probably won't happen, and we're kind of back to our thought process from before. But we could definitely see this coming. It wasn't like it's a huge surprise. Everyone kind of knew that this was going to happen, but I'm troubled by this thought process and reasoning that a lot of people are saying, where they're saying, the rest of the Big Ten should want this too. Like, it's best for the conference if Ohio State goes to the Big Ten championship and all that, which I don't get that reasoning. Like, sure, it might be best for the actual Big Ten people to send them because they get money for Ohio State being in the Big Ten, being in the college football playoff, and Ohio State would obviously benefit from it. But what does any other Big Ten school benefit from Ohio State being in the Big Ten championship over in Indiana per se? Like, honestly, I feel like we would benefit better if we were in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, look, we have a selfish case out of all of the other Big Ten teams because we were the ones, that did not get to play in the Big Ten championship when the rules stated that we should have played in there or should be able to play in the Big Ten championship. I can kind of get the thought process of, okay, if Ohio State doesn't play in the Big Ten championship, the odds that a Big Ten team makes it to the playoff is now less. Because now you have a one-loss team versus a one-loss team in the championship game. A one-loss team comes out of that. Let's assume it would have been us. I don't think we would have had a strong enough case for the playoffs, especially with the way they're ranking us, which is absolutely obscene, and we'll get to that soon here. But I can kind of get that thought process because it kind of sets a trend of, if you get a Big Ten team in, then you're probably going to get another team in next year. And you look at the Pac-12 that hasn't had a team in the playoffs in a while. So I could kind of see the argument, but at the end of the day, is it just bad to say I don't care? I really don't care because this is Indiana. And I don't think that the national media has been great for us and also horrible for us. It's been great for us because it's gotten us on the map. People are watching Coach Allen be himself, which is the best form of recruiting you can have. But then there's the flip. National media, they're like, well, they should obviously let Ohio State in. Whatever, it's Indiana, it doesn't matter. It's like, you don't get it. You don't get how much pain and just like you don't understand how bad this football team has been for so many years. And the fact that we actually finally have a good team, not even good team, we have a great team. This is a great football team. And we have a chance to play in the Big Ten championship, and that got ripped away from us. Yeah, we're gonna be mad. It doesn't matter whether it's good for the Big Ten or not. You can argue that either way. But at the end of the day, 99% of IU fans don't care because it's IU football, and we've been waiting for this moment. I mean, I'm only 21, and I've been waiting for this moment all my life. My dad is older, and he's been waiting for this moment all of his life. Like, I just hate the argument of like, oh, they're just Indiana. Well, we're finally good, and let us just embrace in that goodness. And then I turn on the TV to watch the playoff rankings, and we're still 12th. Out of everything that we've talked about on this pod so far, that's what gets me the most. How we just beat a ranked team, a ranked Wisconsin team, and we don't move up even one spot with how many? Oklahoma, Georgia, um, who was the other two loss team? Iowa State, all ahead of us with 2 losses. How on earth does that make any sense? And you're keeping Ohio State at 4. And it's like, if Ohio State's best win is us, how are we still ranked 12th? Shouldn't Ohio State then be lower? Wouldn't that make sense? It doesn't make any sense to me. I absolute BS that we are ranked 12th.
I think it's just so rigged, the system in which like they select teams. They have those 4 teams that they want at the start of the season, and you have to do something miraculous to get one of those teams out because they want those 4 teams, and that's those 4 teams that they think will bring them the most money. It's a money game for them, and I honestly believe that has a lot to do with it. Now, the fact that 2 Big 12 teams that are both 2-loss teams in Iowa State and Oklahoma are ahead of us boggles my mind. How do you have a 2-loss team in the college football playoff when you have Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, all these teams? Clemson has 1 loss, but all these teams that really haven't lost. It boggles my mind, especially after beating a ranked Wisconsin team, a 16th ranked Wisconsin team. That's a good football team. Wisconsin, they might have lost 2 in a row, but they lost to two other solid teams. They're a good football team. So the fact that, the committee has us ranked so low is mind-boggling. It's really just disrespectful because this team is a great team. And you said Ohio State's best win was against us. They only won by 1 possession. It was a 7-point game. We took them down to the wire, and there's just still zero respect. We've handled everything you've thrown at us, and we were a puncher's chance against one of the teams that is, right now supposed to be in the college football playoff. So it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah. It just bothers me. It's like, if that 1 loss was like by a lot, or maybe to a team that wasn't that good, I can get behind that. But it's not. It's to what you think is the 4th best team in the nation on the road when they had a week off to prepare and they lost by 7. And in the second half where our defense only allowed 1 touchdown. I mean, I know we're going to watch every single game, with all the details, and maybe they're not, but they should, because if they're the committee, I know it's made up of a lot of athletic directors and things like that, or people like that, and I'm sure they're qualified people, but I just don't get their thought process. I know you actually I haven't seen it yet, but we were talking before that you had seen at least one person on the committee had a reasoning for us being that low.
Yeah, they were talking about. Yeah, I think I never got to that, but they were talking about how, a lot of our wins aren't against ranked teams, currently ranked teams, because The teams we beat were ranked, but they're not ranked anymore, which is dumb logic to me. Because a lot of the teams ahead of us, how many ranked teams have Cincinnati beat? I mean, come on, it's absurd. And then the other thing they say is that we don't have any wins against teams with winning records, which is, okay, Maryland had a winning record, Wisconsin had a winning record. Just because, we beat them and now they don't have a winning record. It's dumb. At the time, they had a winning record.
Especially when they're not playing as many games because of COVID.
Yeah, and you're giving other teams who've had COVID issues some leeway, i.e., Ohio State a ton of leeway. We've yet to miss a game. This is our first game we're missing this upcoming weekend. Other teams cannot say that. Most other teams cannot say that they haven't missed any games due to COVID. It's absurd to me, and I do think another part of the reasoning could be that the Big Ten started late. There's just less games to be played for the Big Ten. The ACC and SEC and a lot of these other non-Power 5 conferences have been playing since the start of the season. So, that could have something to do with it, but, come on. It's just a lack of respect, and I think a win against Iowa would really change some minds. That would be a place to start, and I think we'll get that win. I expect us to win that game, but I do think it'll be a close game. I was a solid team, but I think at this point, I know we had a day yesterday. Yesterday was a day to kind of enjoy for 24 hours. Our presence, our short-lived presence in the Big Ten championship, with that short-lived, decent puncher's chance into the, a visible path into the college football playoff. But I think we just kind of have to accept things as they are and understand that, we still have a great opportunity to get into a New Year's Six Bowl. We're slated to play the Fiesta Bowl right now against USC, and that would do wonders for our program if we were to win these last two games of the season against Iowa and then whoever we play in a bowl game.
Yeah, and ultimately, it's earmuffs and blindfolds. That's been the thing that Coach Allen has been preaching, and that's the best thing that it's the best motto for right now, because those football players, they're mad, all right? They're ticked off that they're ranked 12th. They're ticked off that we can't play Purdue and we're not going to play in the Big Ten championship. But at the end of the day, earmuffs and blindfolds, look straight ahead at your next opponent. That's why Coach Allen is one of the best in the business. If he doesn't win Coach of the Year, I think they got it wrong. I almost objectively got it wrong, because what he's done for this program, and even at the beginning of the year, remember our very first podcast, I predicted a 5-3 record. I think you were 4-4, 5-3 as well. We're 6-1, or I guess, so we officially finished 6-1 if you want to talk about the first 8 games. Hope it may be 7-1 if you count that Iowa game. But it's already been a dream season. It's already been a season where we have the fact that we're getting into the nitty-gritty of playoff rankings and bowl projections and things like that. That's good, because that means the program is evolving. The program has gotten much, much better. Even 2 years ago, we didn't make a bowl. We were 5-7. And now, we're actually in the rankings just to begin with. Is pretty exciting. I also want to mention, if we beat Iowa, I guess they're going to not become a ranked team after that. So does that mean we didn't beat a ranked team? That logic is so flawed, especially when you have teams like Wisconsin and Maryland that haven't played games because of COVID. You're telling me Wisconsin wouldn't beat Nebraska if they would have played them? Wouldn't beat Minnesota, Illinois, or I think they played Illinois. The teams that they haven't played in the West, they would have beaten them. They would have beaten Purdue. They would have beaten these teams. So to say that we haven't beat a team with a winning record, it's only correct on the basis of the actual record itself. It's not but they're not using any sort of background context at all, which is very frustrating. But like I said, earmuffs and blindfolds, straight ahead. We're not playing Purdue, but if we're playing Iowa, it's on Iowa. If we can't play that game, then it's the bowl game after that. And wherever we end up, and I know Coach Allen will have this team ready to play.
Yeah, and I just can't wait till a non-COVID season where everyone plays the same number of games, and we don't have these issues where we're deciding, well, this team only played 5 games. So that'll be interesting, and hopefully with the non-conference games added on, we can have a 10-win Indiana season, which would be nice. But you did mention Tom Allen, Coach of the Year. I'd have to say the only thing better than that Wisconsin game was everything that happened right after it, whether it's like the locker room speech or the post game interview, where Tom Allen's giving his post game interview. Best recruiting video you could possibly have, where almost every teammate just comes up to him. Stevie Scott comes up. He's like, best coach in America right here. Best coach in America. One guy even said recruits should come here to play. He's actively recruiting. So, that was incredible. And then in the locker room right afterwards, I don't know if you saw, Tom Allen's talking about the football team. This football team. It's about this football team. Earmuffs and blinders. Just incredible stuff. Jack Tuttle gets the game ball, and the team's going wild. They're going Tuttle time, like just clowning in there. It's just so apparent that Tom Allen is such a player's coach, but not a player's coach in terms of letting his guys go easy. He's pushing his guys hard, but they're seeing the fruits of that labor on the football team, and that's why they believe in him so hard. And these guys, it looks like these guys will go to war for him, man. And Tom Allen is the best coach in Indiana football history already.
Yeah, I think that there's a fair case for that. I mean, we're too young to know any of the coach. I always hear the year 1987 whenever anything happens, because I think that was the last year we were actually like decent, or at least this good. And before that, it was like 67, and then 1945. Apparently, we had a good season too. Then that was World War II. But yeah, I mean, the fact, and I'll go back to it. The fact that we're talking about this nitty gritty stuff is a great sign of where this program is. I really do think Coach Allen. I would say Nick Saban's probably the best coach in America in terms of recruiting and winning championships. Let's be honest, he has 5 championships, something like that. But I think you can make an argument that Coach Allen's the best coach in America in terms of how he's the definition of a player's coach. I've never seen a better example of a player's coach than Coach Allen. I mean, he's also just a definition of a college football coach. He's not an NFL coach where you have less control of the players in the NFL, and you're just kind of letting them play. Where college, you need to have that great culture. I'm not saying culture doesn't matter in NFL, but it matters more in college. And he just creates this amazing culture. He truly loves every one of his recruits. I think the amount of times that I hear like the players say, "I love you, coach," it's like that's not common. It's not at every single program that happens. And so and like you said, that's the best recruiting video you could have asked for. Is after a big win on the road, you have nearly player coming, either hugging him, getting on his back, saying he's the best coach in America, all this stuff. The program is the best place it's been in years. You can make an argument that it's at its best place ever because of what the future can hold for this team. Blue Bloods are going to go after Coach Allen. I don't know which blue blood would do that right now. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. But whether it's Nick Saban maybe retires soon and Bama needs a new coach, or any other kind of SEC school, he's going to be on their list and he's going to get calls. We got to understand that. Maybe even Michigan with Harbaugh possibly going. But at the end of the day, I really don't see him going as long as our administration holds up and is fine and we pay him what he deserves. That happens, I could see him being here for 20 plus years.
Yeah, I could. It is based off of whether we pay him, how much we pay him, if we can really get that down and solidify him as one of these big name head coaches that have been in the game for so long. These coaches that create dynasties at the school that they're a part of. Whether it's Urban Meyer at Ohio State, Nick Saban in Alabama. Now Dabo Sweeney has done that in Clemson. You know, yeah, and you see it in basketball all the time. Like Coach K. Coach Calipari, Coach Izzo. All these guys. Just who changed the program and have just been, spearheaded that program and have been there for so long. We have an opportunity here with Tom Allen to make that happen, to be a perennial contender. And that's the goal, to really put us in position to be able to do that. Our future is incredibly bright, and Tom Allen is the reason for that. He has changed this culture dramatically, and I do think with what everyone's seeing, we're gonna get some recruits. We could definitely get some recruits, and if things go right, I could see Tom Allen being here for a long, long time.
Yeah, and my dream right now, or what I think is the best case scenario for us, it's Indiana and Ohio State competing every year for the Big Ten East. I mean, that's like the kind of goal that we're aiming for here. Because let's face it, Ohio State's not going away anytime soon, and we're not going to be favored against Ohio State probably within this decade. So unless something really bad happens to Ohio State or really good happens to us. So, but to be able to compete on a consistent basis with Ohio State is the goal, because that's Ohio State's not moving location. Maybe the Big Ten will, get rid of the whole East-West thing. But yeah, and we've talked about that before in previous pods. Whether you do it randomized somehow, or I know they've tried stuff in the past. They may stick with this for a little bit, but I can see that maybe changing. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know when we're going to play next. Hopefully it's against Iowa. I think it would just be the weekend, or not this weekend, but the weekend after. And then we're definitely going to a bowl. It's just a matter of what bowl at this point in time. Earmuffs, blinders, and keep on moving on.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about breaking up the divisions, and I think they should do that in every conference. I don't think there should be divisions at all. It creates an issue where you might have a second best team in a division is better than the best team in the other division, like we have this year. And it's just like strength of schedule, man. So many years. I mean, maybe not this year, but there's so many years where, you got Michigan State, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, and now Indiana throws themselves into the mix. Obviously this year, Michigan State, Michigan, and Penn State have been struggling, but, it is an off year. And the Big Ten West has historically been a lot worse. So, if we break things up, just let the best two teams go to the conference championship. That way you'll have, more even strength of schedules across the conference as well. And, you just let the two best teams duke it out. It would be so much better if that happened this year and we had an Ohio State-Indiana rematch. Granted, that could have hurt our chances for a New Year's Six Bowl, but it could also, give us a chance if we win that game to become Big Ten champions and maybe go to the college football playoff. So I think I think the Big Ten should do that, and I think other conferences should do that too, like the SEC and the Pac-12. I know the Big 12 and the ACC already do it. I think those other 3 Power 5 conferences should buy into that idea as well. But yeah, great opportunity here against Iowa. it's pretty much a win and you're in for our New Year's Six Bowl. I think we win that game and we pretty much secured our spot.
I
Which
think
is
so. Yeah, and if we lose, still at a bowl, but it's not New Year's Six. So take care of business against Iowa. They're a solid team. I guess that's one way to look at it. I haven't really thought about that, but win and you're in. I would think. I think it's a win and you're in. I could easily see the playoff committee being like, you know what, we don't want you. But it looks like every projection is leading towards Fiesta Bowl. I'll take any New Year's Six Bowl. Feed me anyone, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm seeing Fiesta Bowl a lot against USC. Is pretty much the prediction everyone is giving at this point. And that would be a great game because we are one of the best teams in the country. Second best team in the Big Ten behind a college football playoff team. And USC looks like they're going to probably win the Pac-12. They're undefeated. Obviously, the Pac-12 hasn't really played games, but still, they're they look like they're going to win that conference. So to be able to play a New Year's Six Bowl against a team that is a conference champion in a Power 5 conference, that would also be a huge boost in our resume moving forward to next year. And I think that'd be really cool. Great things to come. Obviously, with everything that's happened this week, a little bit of a bummer, but hey, we're still trying to build our program one step at a time and put ourselves in a position where maybe we can win the conference next year. I think there's an opportunities for us to do it in the next 5 years or so. I think we definitely have a puncher's chance of winning the conference perennially for the next few years.
Yeah, and winning the conference possibly means playoff, which is outlandish to think in a way for an Indiana football team. The fact that there was some stat pulled up from ESPN yesterday that when Ohio State still wasn't playing in the Big Ten championship, we had a 37% chance to make the playoffs, which is the high. I'm sure it's the highest it's ever been, not even close. Let's hope, in the next year we keep it up and we don't digress, because sometimes this happens with programs where you get really hot for one season and then you kind of come down because maybe you just had a really good recruiting class or whatever. I don't see it happening especially with Coach Allen here, but I guess that's for a later date. Right now, we just need to focus on most likely beating Iowa. So, and Iowa's a very established program. I don't know the name of the coach off the top of my head, but he's been there for many years. There was a physical team, kind of like Wisconsin. Always got a great O-line. Always just got a solid quarterback, good defense, well-disciplined team. So we'll need to come ready for that one.
Yeah, it's and we will preview that game next week. Really exciting things to come. And I do want to say we will be doing a basketball podcast soon. We have the Florida State game tonight. We're recording this on a Wednesday, so we don't know the result of that game yet. You probably will once you watch this. But once again, we'll have a basketball podcast soon. Follow us on social media. We'll be kind of live tweeting all the games and things like we usually do at Pod Dry on Twitter and at Dry Campus Pod on Instagram. Please let us know your thoughts. What else should I do, Ethan?
Hit that subscribe button. I don't know how many subscribers we have, but I bet we need more.
We definitely need a lot more. So, tell your friends, all your IU fans that to check us out and become part of the Dry Campus community. Because Indiana is a very, very dry campus, as you guys all know. So that's all great, and we will be back pretty soon. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dry Campus, and have a great rest of the day.
Our campus must be dry.